A two-bedroom bungalow in Toronto's East York neighborhood just traded for $1.35 million. 800 kilometers north, along Highway 11, that same amount buys an entire block of four-bedroom homes in Kirkland Lake, with money left over for a commercial storefront on Government Road. It is the real estate math driving the largest internal migration in modern Canadian history. Canadians are leaving major metropolitan centers in record numbers, pricing themselves into rural districts, northern mining outposts, and Atlantic coastal hamlets. The paradox is simple. If these properties are so cheap, why isn't everyone moving there? What is the real cost of that discount once you arrive? In this investigation, we are counting down 12 Canadian towns and territories where real estate sits at a fraction of the provincial average, exposing the exact trade-off each one demands. We'll look at entry number 9, where a $120,000 home sits 2 hours from an open emergency department, and entry number 3, where acreage comes with a private well so contaminated that drinking water is trucked in every winter. Hit the subscribe button right now. Let's begin the countdown. Number 12 is Kirkland Lake, Ontario, an organized municipality in the Temiskaming district. A quiet grid of frame houses sits beneath massive mine tailings, where frost-heaved asphalt on Government Road runs past supply shops, board-backed storefronts, and northern spruce. The population sits at 7,981, down 3% over the last census. The benchmark home price is $168,000, roughly 24% of the Ontario provincial benchmark of $708,000. Kirkland Lake was literally paved with gold. During the 1920s boom, waste rock from the Wright-Hargreaves gold mine was crushed and used as road aggregate for the main street before being paved over. Healthcare is anchored by the Blanche River Health Kirkland Lake site, operating 30 inpatient beds with a 24-hour emergency department. Elementary and high schools are local, but specialized care or major retail chains require an hour-and-a-half drive south to Temiskaming Shores or 2 hours north to Timmins. Cell coverage is solid within municipal boundaries but drops on Highway 66, and winter maintenance requires heavy plowing from October through May. The catch is structural isolation and environmental legacy. A low price buys an aging home built on shifting clay, heated by oil furnaces or wood stoves, where economic spikes depend on volatile commodity cycles. It is an affordable entry point, provided you accept your property value is tied to a mine shaft and specialist appointments sit 300 kilometers away. Number 11 is Canso, Nova Scotia, in the district of Guysborough. Atlantic winds cut down Main Street, rattling clapboard homes looking across granite rocks and gray breakers of Chedabucto Bay. The community holds 715 residents, reflecting a steady decline of over 15% over 2 decades. The average residential resale figure sits at $135,000, less than a third of the Nova Scotia benchmark of $415,000. Canso was once the epicenter of the North Atlantic fishery, hosting North America's oldest seafood processing plant until the 1992 cod moratorium wiped out its industrial base overnight. Medical access is served by Eastern Memorial Hospital, maintaining 10 acute care beds, though its emergency department faces frequent temporary closures due to physician shortages. This forces a 50-minute drive to Guysborough or 2 hours to Antigonish. A convenience store supplies basic staples, but full grocery trips demand a round trip to Antigonish. Internet relies on satellite services like Starlink, and salt fog doubles exterior maintenance rates. The low purchase price reflects extreme coastal exposure and limited services. You buy sea air and historic charm balanced against high heating oil costs, insurance premiums driven by hurricane risks, and a hospital drive treacherous during winter blizzards. Number 10 is Ocean Falls, British Columbia, an unorganized territory within the Central Coast Regional District. Rain falls nearly 300 days a year on decaying concrete ruins, overgrown boardwalks, and isolated houses tucked between fjord walls and Cousins Inlet. The population is under 50 people, down from $3,000 in its prime. Vacant lots or homes pop up for under $80,000, a tiny fraction of the BC benchmark exceeding $950,000. Ocean Falls was built as a self-contained company town, hosting British Columbia's largest pulp and paper mill, complete with a hydroelectric dam that still powers the tiny grid today. There is no hospital. Medical emergencies require a water taxi or float plane evacuation to Bella Bella or Vancouver. No paved highways connect Ocean Falls to the province. All transport is by ferry or boat. Cell service is non-existent. Groceries arrive by barge, and no municipal schools operate in the inlet. The price tag is an illusion of cheap coastal living. Savings on purchase price are swallowed by transport logistics, freight delivery for building supplies, and absolute geographic isolation where simple medical complications require an airlift. Still ahead, we'll visit an interior mill town built over abandoned logging tunnels, and an Atlantic island market where a house costs less than a used pickup truck. Number 9 is Northern Arm, Newfoundland and Labrador, a local service district on Exploits Bay. Low-slung bungalows sit back from Highway 350, framed by birch trees, boat sheds, and calm waters stretching toward the Atlantic. The population sits at 380, down 4% since 2016. The average home price sits around $140,000, compared to the provincial average of $290,000. Though now a quiet residential strip, Northern Arm was a crucial logging transshipment point, where millions of cords of timber were floated down the Exploits River to feed the Grand Falls paper mill. Emergency care requires a 45-minute drive to Central Newfoundland Regional Health Center in Grand Falls, Windsor, an 80-bed facility. Local children are bused to Botwood for primary school, and basic groceries are 10 minutes away. Winter road clearing on Highway 350 is managed provincially, but side roads rely on local contracts that can be slow after storm surges. The low entry cost buys peace and ocean access, but locks you into commuting expenses, total reliance on private septic systems and well water, and a regional market with virtually no appreciation. Cheap real estate isn't a giveaway. It is a calculation where every dollar saved on a mortgage is spent on fuel, heating, private infrastructure, and travel time. Tell me in the comments if you would trade a 2-hour hospital drive for a mortgage-free house under $150,000. Subscribe to stay tuned as we dive into entries 8 through 6, including the single cheapest town in Western Canada. Number 8 is Elliott Lake, Ontario, an incorporated city in Algoma District. Sunlight reflects off Horn Lake, illuminating mid-century brick bungalows, curbless streets, and dense northern pine forests. The population stands at 11,372, showing stabilization after decades of post-industrial contraction. The benchmark home price sits at $265,000, roughly 37% of Ontario's provincial benchmark of $708,000. Elliott Lake was engineered in the 1950s as the uranium capital of the world, housing workers for 12 underground mines before the final shaft closed in 1996, and city leaders marketed the infrastructure to retirees. Healthcare is anchored by St. Joseph's General Hospital, maintaining 52 acute care beds and a 24-hour emergency department. The city has primary and secondary schools, pharmacies, and a full-line grocery store, with solid municipal snow clearing along Highway 108. However, specialized surgical care requires a 2-hour drive east to Sudbury. The catch is buried beneath topsoil and municipal budgets. A low price tag comes with high property tax mill rates needed to support legacy infrastructure for a shrinking tax base, combined with expensive insurance and strict monitoring around historic mine tailings. It offers a fully serviced suburban lifestyle at northern prices, provided you accept stagnant economic growth and specialized care over 160 kilometers away. Number 7 is Miramichi, New Brunswick, an incorporated city in Northumberland County. Deep waters of the Miramichi River slice past wooden churches, active sawmills, and residential blocks lining Newcastle and Chatham downtown cores. The population sits at 11,594. The benchmark home price here is $215,000, roughly half of the national average. Formed by the 1995 amalgamation of several towns along the river, Miramichi was once a world-famous pulp, paper, and Atlantic salmon fishing capital before industrial downsizing reshaped the economy. Medical care is provided by Horizon Health Network's Miramichi Regional Hospital, operating 163 beds with a full-time emergency department. The city boasts English and French schooling, pharmacies, supermarkets, and full LTE coverage. Winter road maintenance across river bridges is continuous. The hidden cost sits inside heating bills and municipal distance. Low housing costs are counterbalanced by heavy reliance on expensive heating oil or electrical baseboards during harsh maritime winters, paired with high vehicle mileage across the sprawling, amalgamated city footprint. You gain waterfront heritage and local hospital care, balanced against higher ongoing operational costs for aging housing stock. Number 6 is Trail, British Columbia, an incorporated city within the regional district of Kootenay Boundary. Tiered streets climb mountain slopes overlooking the Columbia River and the massive industrial metal smelting complex dominating the valley floor. The population is 7,920. The benchmark home price sits around $355,000, less than 38% of the British Columbia provincial benchmark of $950,000. Trail is home to the world's largest fully integrated zinc and lead smelting complex, operated continuously by Teck Resources since the late 19th century, building the town's economy while permanently shaping its geography. Kootenay Boundary Regional Hospital sits in town, featuring 77 beds and acting as the primary referral center for the region with a 24-hour emergency department. Primary and secondary education is established, alongside pharmacy and grocery options. Winter driving requires snow tires for steep municipal-grade roads that receive regular sanding and plowing. The drawback is atmospheric and topographical. The discounted entry price reflects industrial emissions monitoring, historic soil contamination programs, and limited winter sunlight due to the narrow valley layout. It is an affordable mountain city with exceptional emergency care, traded against an intense industrial footprint in your backyard. Still ahead, we explore an isolated prairie community where a 4-bedroom house costs less than a down payment in Calgary, and a coastal village where sea ice shuts down supply lines for months. Drop a comment below letting us know if you would move across the country to live mortgage-free. Number 5 is Grand Bank, Newfoundland and Labrador, an incorporated town on the Burin Peninsula. Colorful clapboard houses cling to barren hillsides looking down at a concrete seawall, fishing trawlers, and fog-laden waters of Fortune Bay. The population sits at 2,152, representing a continuous decline of 6% over the past decade. The average sale price is $115,000, less than 40% of the provincial average. Grand Bank earned fame as the historic capital of the schooner fishery, sending wooden Western-rigged bankers to the Grand Bank's cod grounds for over 2 centuries. Emergency health services require a 45-minute drive to U.S. Memorial Health Center in St. Lawrence, or a 1-hour drive to Burin Regional Health Center, which holds 41 beds and runs a 24-hour emergency department. Schools operate locally, but specialized shopping or professional services require a 3.5-hour drive to St. John's. Cell coverage is reliable downtown, but degrades along rural peninsula routes. The catch is brutal geographic isolation and structural decay. A house priced lower than a used car carries high freight surcharges on imported goods, soaring insurance premiums due to severe coastal storm surges, and virtually zero buyer liquidity if you ever need to sell. Number 4 is Flin Flon, Manitoba, an incorporated city spanning the border of Manitoba and Saskatchewan within Division Number 21. Weathered wooden staircases climb bare granite outcrops, winding past miners' cottages quiet commercial blocks, and the 250-meter smokestack of the zinc facility dominating the skyline. The population sits at 4,940, down over 5% in recent census counts. The benchmark home price is $112,000, roughly 29% of the Manitoba provincial benchmark of $385,000. Flin Flon is one of the only cities named after a fictional character, Josiah Flintabady Floniton, the dime novel explorer whose statue guards the entrance to town after prospectors discovered rich copper and zinc ore bodies in 1915. Healthcare is centered at Flin Flon General Hospital, maintaining 20 acute care beds and an emergency department, though high-risk surgical cases require an immediate airlift or an 8-hour, 540-kilometer drive to Winnipeg. The town provides schools, a pharmacy, and a full grocery store. Winter maintenance along Highway 10 is relentless, with sub-zero conditions lasting from October into May. The catch is grounded in industrial closure and extreme transport costs. The zinc plant and 90-year-old mine operations shut down their main processing lines recently, leaving a town built around heavy extraction facing a transition toward a service economy. You gain homeownership for a fraction of national prices, balanced against heavy heating costs, freight surcharges on materials, and long-term resale risk. Number 3 is Creighton, Saskatchewan, an incorporated town in the northern Saskatchewan Administration District. Compact frame houses and metal-roofed workshops sit amid Canadian Shield rock cuts, jack pine forests, and sandy lanes across the provincial border from Flin Flon. The population is 1,203, reflecting a decline of 4% in recent years. Average properties trade around $98,000, less than 30% of the Saskatchewan provincial benchmark of $330,000. Creighton was established in the 1930s specifically to house workers for the neighboring Manitoba mine complex who wanted to live on the Saskatchewan side of the boundary to take advantage of different land tenure and tax rules. Because Creighton sits on the border, residents cross into Manitoba for hospital care at Flin Flon General, 10 minutes away, while relying on Saskatchewan coverage for home care. Local elementary schooling exists, but secondary students commute across the border. Major shopping trips mean driving to Prince Albert, over 400 kilometers southwest. The drawback lies in cross-border administrative complexity and housing quality. Many low-cost homes were built rapidly mid-century on shallow rock footings, making them prone to structural frost heaving, while private financing and CMHC insurance can be difficult to secure on properties valued under $100,000. Number 2 on our list is Tumbler Ridge, British Columbia, an incorporated district municipality in the Peace River Regional District. Sweeping views of Rocky Mountain foothills frame wide residential streets, cul-de-sacs, and dark pine stands stretching toward the Murray River. The population sits at 2,399 residents, down significantly from its peak design capacity. The average home price here is $185,000, roughly a quarter of the British Columbia benchmark of $950,000. Tumbler Ridge is one of North America's last instant towns, constructed entirely from scratch in 1981 by the provincial government to house workers for massive metallurgical coal megaprojects, complete with underground power lines and recreational centers before the first family moved in. Emergency medical needs are handled locally by Tumbler Ridge Community Health Center, which operates an emergency department during daytime hours, but inpatient admissions or late-night trauma cases require a 90-minute, 120-kilometer transport north to Dawson Creek Regional Hospital or 2 hours west to Chetwynd. The town retains primary and secondary schools, a pharmacy, a municipal grocery store, and reliable cell coverage. Highways 29 and 52 see heavy snow accumulation, requiring continuous plow maintenance through mountain passes. The catch is total vulnerability to global resource markets and severe financing friction. When coal prices collapsed and mines shut down, home values plummeted overnight, leaving major banks reluctant to issue standard mortgages or CMHC insurance without substantial down payments. As we approach our top entry, the real estate trade-off turns into a question of basic survival. A community where property sells for $30,000, but where one municipal service failure could render the town unlivable within 48 hours. Drop a comment below. Would you take a chance on a custom-built mountain town if your nearest full-time hospital was over 100 kilometers away? Subscribe right now to make sure you do not miss the conclusion. Number 1 on our countdown is Uranium City, Saskatchewan, an unincorporated settlement in the northern Saskatchewan Administration District. Rusting fuel drums, abandoned concrete foundations, and hollowed-out timber structures sit along dirt tracks cutting through dense boreal forest on the northern shore of Lake Athabasca. The permanent population stands at roughly 82 residents, down over 98% from its industrial peak of nearly 5,000. Properties trade for as little as $25,000 to $45,000, a microscopic fraction of the Saskatchewan benchmark of $330,000, making it the cheapest real estate entry in the country. Uranium City takes the top spot because it represents the ultimate endpoint of resource town boom and bust in Canadian history. Established in 1952 by the federal government to service the Gunner and El Dorado uranium mines, the entire community was artificially planned to support thousands of workers during the Cold War nuclear rush. When the El Dorado mine closed abruptly in 1982, the local economy collapsed in weeks, leading to widespread abandonment where homes were simply left behind to weather northern freezes. The service math here is unlike anywhere else in the nation. There is no functional hospital. Medical care is restricted to a health clinic staffed by a community nurse, while any serious emergency requires a high-cost air ambulance flight over 680 kilometers south to Prince Albert or Saskatoon. There are no active municipal public schools operating full-time, no traditional supermarkets, and no paved highway connecting the settlement to the rest of Canada. Groceries and heavy supplies arrive via seasonal winter ice roads across Lake Athabasca or on expensive air freight flights. Cell phone coverage is minimal, and internet relies entirely on private satellite dishes. The catch is total administrative and physical isolation, where distance is absolute. A $30,000 property buys an off-grid existence, where home insurance is virtually impossible to secure, traditional mortgage financing does not exist, and basic building maintenance costs 3 times the national average due to freight logistics. It demands that you become your own municipal public works department, power utility, and emergency service responder. When you look across all 12 entries on this list, a clear pattern emerges. Canadians are not paying for the wood, brick, and square footage of a house, but for proximity to operating emergency rooms, reliable power grids, and municipal maintenance crews. Before buying into any deeply discounted market, verify 3 critical things: whether local emergency departments face seasonal weekend closures, whether major banks will write CMHC-insured mortgages under $100,000 in that postal code, and how many years of municipal tax reserves remain in the town budget. Is a 75-minute ambulance drive to the nearest hospital a complete deal-breaker for your family, or is that exactly the price you are willing to pay to live entirely mortgage-free? Hit the subscribe button to follow our investigative breakdowns. In our next episode, we explore 5 booming Canadian manufacturing hubs where high-paying industrial jobs are creating secret real estate opportunities right under the radar.